Prior to Truth Be Told, I didn't know I had a story. I was raised in a room with my sister most of my life. And I wasn't allowed to speak. I wasn't allowed to ask for anything. So I didn't have a voice most of my life. Telling my story when it came time to, I was terrifying. But it was also liberating. I was able to share the darkest secrets of my life, of what happened to me, what I've done, things that I thought I would go to my grave with. So telling my story is extremely freeing. It is a motivation to correct or invoke change in others around me by continuing to tell my truth, as shocking as it may be, unafraid and unapologetic. Change is a lifetime, right? You know, you overcome one obstacle only to realize, oh, there's yet another. In the segment of my life that I'm in right now, I'm dealing with trust. It's not pretty, glamorous, it's hard, it's painful. I have to change my expectations of people around me and those that love me. I had to even change my perception of love. And so when I started this journey, I wasn't even thinking about trust, because in the classroom with the women, it's automatic. It's established right from the beginning. You have an agreement you come to, and you know that it's safe to tell your truth there. This is safe space. No one's gonna judge me on it, rub it in my face, use it against me when they get angry, any of that. And so trust was established initially. So it evolves. Trust, not hiding my crime, not hiding my incarceration, being open about it, not skimming the room or being in the room with my peers or my coworkers and they talk about criminals and shrinking back in the corner. I don't do that anymore. I own my truth. It's a part of who I am. It's made me who I am. I'm the best I have ever been in my entire life. And so it continues to evolve. What I've learned is continuing to tell my truth, continuing to tell my history, talk about that. You connect with people that were afraid to share that. And so whether they openly acknowledge or not, it's the side conversation that says, oh, I have no idea. I too have. Or, wow, that happened to me. This is amazing. How do you get the courage? And of course I get to say, well, I got it in prison. The last place that you would think you could find that courage to tell your truth. I have heard so many women tell their stories, and I see myself right there in the scenario with them. Every woman I come in contact with, a piece of her story has been a piece of mine. At some point, at some segment in their lives. So I'm not alone. They're not alone. That's the connection. We all walk around with this facade, and because people think going to prison or being incarcerated is a look, they don't know who's around them. They have no idea. And then the knowledge, it comes, they're aware, they become aware, and then, wow, okay, this person has a history. Most cases, they forget about whatever the initial contact or interaction was. Good, you know, and they go right to the crime and right to, oh, you've been incarcerated and I have a fear and there's no understanding. Or there's genuine appreciation and admiration. I carry details from every woman's story that I've ever heard. The most important details are, that was then, this is now. This is how I showed up in the past. This is how I show up today in my relationships, my work, in my personal life. One graduate said, to a stranger even. I'm a different person. I have no control over how people will receive me, receive my story, receive my past. And it's not about me. It's about them and where they are in their life or in their work, in their healing journey. And as difficult as it is, I swallow that frog in my throat and I tell it. Storytelling changes people's perception of incarceration because they can connect with real people with a real experience. And it's not something that's perpetrated or shared on the internet or the news or social media. This is a real person that did real time and had it was real crime. 1, 2, 3, 5 times, whatever it is. And just as our facilitator said, it could be your next door neighbor. It could be your doctor. It could be your clerk at the grocery store. It could be the guy that fixes your car, the guy that sells your car. You don't know. You have no clue. It's not a look. It's a situation. And most times, it's trauma that caused the decision. Most times. I have yet to come across a woman that said, I did it because it felt good and I don't care. I have yet to come across that person. And I have dealt with a lot of women in prison. My life is open book. I share my credit score. I don't care. Because I don't. That's not who I am. I'm not my credit score. I'm not my bank account. I'm not my past criminal history. I'm not. It's just a part of me. And I had to unfortunately go through that to get here. So I share everything. All the little grimy, dirty details. You know why? Because it's so vast and it's so much of my story until it could be a housewife that is being beaten and is staying because she doesn't realize that she can take care of her kids by herself. She doesn't have to go through that. That she can stop the cycle because she saw her mom get beat or her grandmother. That she can make a hard and fast decision to pack up and leave. I don't know who I'm reaching. I don't know who I'm speaking to. I just tell it. I get, you've been to prison? Really? Or, you've been to prison? Okay. So yeah, that's usually what or I get the person, again, that will pull me to the side in a crowded room and say, my daughter's in prison or in county jail or substance abuse. Thank you for sharing your truth. I have hope. My daughters had to go through their menstrual cycle without knowing. I wasn't there. So puberty for them. That transition in their life when they should have had a mother, I wasn't there. One of my daughters had a bad accident. She fell down the stairs and had to be rushed to the emergency room, and she had to have surgery, and I wasn't there. That was the hardest, being away from my kids. The one thing I would change is judgments, sentencing, not just looking a blanket sentence for a crime. That judgment should be situational. We don't know. This person that killed her husband could have been beaten, or you don't know, trafficked, and who knows? But all you see is a person and the crime. I think, especially with women, I think the crimes should be judged based on situations. And those crimes that are not, severe or whatever, they should even have their children with them or access to them at points where it's to keep so the cycle is stopped, right? Right now, visitation, you have to have, a family member trying to get to wherever you are. That's a 2-hour or 3-hour drive. And then you're there for only 2 hours, and it's just really restrictive. I'm not saying people should not, suffer the consequences for their actions. What I'm saying, though, is it should be situational judgment as opposed to punitive blanket sentencing. Hardest thing I had to work through my trauma healing journey was believing that I was good enough. Not working for acceptance. Learning that if I had to earn it, it wasn't for me. I didn't need the relationship. Learning that mutuality is a foundation or characteristic of a good, healthy relationship. And I didn't have to do all the work to make the relationship healthy. That it is okay to set boundaries and not live in fear that this person is going to leave me. I think I'm still working through all that, but that's the hardest. I'm always telling my story. My story is my truth. It doesn't have to necessarily be right to the person I'm telling it to or accepted. I have to tell it. So when I was taught to create a 5 to 7 minute speech and to share the things that had happened to me, and people actually listened, it has helped me tremendously through all the hard stuff. Because I was hurt. People are paying attention. They were respectful listeners, paying attention to what I had to say. At 16 years old, when I got out of prison, I put my daughter out because she was 2 hours late coming home after I gave her permission to be out. I thought that was the right thing to do. Now, mind you, I got out in 2000, so truth be told, hadn't been created at that time. I was able to receive the examples of the curriculum that we now teach or facilitate in the classrooms modeled before my very eyes by the founders of the organization. So I had access to the curriculum in real life, if that makes sense. So when I put her out, I initially didn't feel, I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Needless to say, we went through, she graduated high school, thank God. She, figured it out. But today, we talk every day. I made amends. And what my daughter told me was, Mom, I believe you did the best you could. And I love you for giving me what you did. So she applauds my change. She's my biggest cheerleader. All my daughters are. My son, I don't know if he'll ever grow up, but he's my baby and he knows it, and he calls me every day with whatever he's going through. He told me the other day, Mom, thank you for listening. I know it's hard to listen to me talk the way I do sometimes. Most people don't stick around long enough to hear. But it's because I'm healing my trauma that I can listen and hold space for him. And I told him, sometimes it's hard. It's really hard to listen to my child talk this way. But if that is what's going to help you get through it, then that's what I'm here for. I can't give up. I've started over 1,000 times in the last 21 years. I made some grave mistakes along the way. Some I'm super ashamed of. But I consider myself the prodigal. I'm the prodigal graduate, truth be told. This curriculum is not available in the free world. Why do I have to go to prison to be freed or get a step toward healing my trauma? I didn't even know what trauma was. So the education, housing, employment are major. When you get out and you don't have a support system, you don't have someone already that you can parole to, or I had to go to a women's shelter. I was in a room with all 4 of my children. It was 2 bunk beds and a twin bed, and that's where we lived for the first 3 months of my freedom. I did what I had to do. I had to beg and plead for housing. I didn't have credit. I didn't have a job that was only paying $5.45 an hour. But I had to assure the owner that somehow he was going to get his money. Because that's the first thing he said. You don't have a job. You have a job, but it's not making very much. You don't have credit. How are you going to possibly? I didn't know how. I just knew I didn't have a choice not to. And we ended up staying in his house for 7 years. So, yeah, if we have employers that are willing to give not just our women, anyone who's making a change in their life, a chance, or housing owners, that guy gave me a foundation that I have built upon. So housing, employment, you got to take care of yourself or you're going to go back to prison. Those are the biggest challenges. I realized I wasn't practicing the same patterns when I started beating my kids. And I actually had conversations with my children. And I didn't try to control them the way my mom did me, which was, you be quiet, you're seen and not heard. I didn't do that. My children had a voice. They could tell me, Mom, that's not cool. Or that thing made me feel whatever way. And then we go, okay, well, let's talk about that. My mother would never have that conversation with me. I knew I changed when my financial status changed and I was unemployed and I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills or anything like that, but I didn't go out and try to make a way the wrong way. I didn't go out and try to, manipulate and con and scheme and do all those things. I sat with it as uncomfortable as it was, realizing that no matter what happened, my outcome, whatever it's going to be, I'm going to be all right. Because if I can do in prison, I can do anything. I can get through anything. If I got through years of behind a bar, people telling me what to do, been locked up with a bunch of I can handle this. This is fine. I'm just going to have to take it one day at a time. Yeah, I facilitate classes in the prison. You can't facilitate and like one graduate say, be shooting dope in the in the bath. You can't do that. The women have this uncanny ability to see right through the bullcrap. You gotta live. You gotta walk the walk and talk the talk. You gotta do it. It's not something that you can just talk about and not have experience. They see fake. And I believe that because I'm living as best as I can every day, I connect with every one of them. I love it that when they get out, I get to talk to them and go, hey, oh my God, how is it? How are you? And we instantly, because we have truth be told in common, they're vetted. They're my sisters. It keeps me reminded the wrong choice, wrong place, wrong situation, I could lose it all in just a blink of an eye.